episode of LIRS Culture Kitchen. My name is Chris Romero Vignaraja, and I'm President and CEO of Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service. Today, nearing Mother's Day, we are joined by the mother and daughter-in-law duo, Virginia and Vida Ali, who are part of the dynamic and talented family that runs Ben's Chili Bowl in Washington, D.C. They'll be teaching us how to make a Trinidadian dish that inspires the recipe of their famous chili. And I've got my daughter and sous chef, Alana, along with me on our culinary journey. Alana, do you want to say hi to all who have joined tonight?
Yeah.
Say hi.
Hi.
Okay, so we at LIRS started our Culture Kitchen series last year to highlight the amazing stories of immigrant chefs around the country, as well as to create a sense of community, even through computer screens, by sharing culinary traditions and recipes. Now, as we're finally beginning to turn the corner on the pandemic, many families might be getting together in person for the first time since last March. Who knows? Maybe our next episode of Culture Kitchen will be in person. For now, though, I'm happy to virtually introduce Virginia and Vida Ali. Virginia founded Ben's Chili Bowl over 60 years ago with her husband, Ben, on DC's U Street, historically known as Black Broadway, a cultural hub for the Black community in DC beginning in the 1920s jazz era. Over the years, Ben's has witnessed more than half a century of historical events and has been visited by many celebrities, musicians, politicians, and more, including former presidents Barack Obama and George Bush, artists Bruno Mars, Bono, and DJ Khaled, and even Pope Francis. While it's a popular spot, many don't know that the delicious menu at Ben's Chili Bowl was inspired by Trinidadian culinary tradition. Ben's famous chili included many of the flavors and spices he used growing up in Trinidad, including some of those that will be going into our curry dish today. Vida and Virginia, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. Okay, and as a reminder to our audience, whether we're cooking or conversing, we want you to participate. So please submit your questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom window. Okay, clearly Alana is ready to cook, so let's get cooking. So can I start out by just asking, could you tell us a little bit more about the dish we'll be making today and then just get us started?
So one of the most popular dishes in Trinidad is the curry chicken. And it's basically part of a meal which consists of, we have a dal that goes on top of it, which you'll see later. We prepared that off camera, and a vegetable and a rice and a cucumber salad. So today we'll be featuring the curry chicken, which is very popular. Curry is probably the most popular dish in Trinidad. Some people, like you, who are vegetarians and so forth, can substitute it with garbanzo beans or tofu or any of that sort. But I think curry chicken is probably still a popular one.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so we are going to follow your lead.
Okay, great. So here we are. Can you see me in the kitchen? Perfect. So you turn your stove on pretty much at high to begin with. And then you'll pour your oil in the pot. Now the trick to the Trinidad dishes and the curry is you have to wait till the oil is hot. If you put the curry in before it's hot, it'll taste completely different. Well, how are you doing?
She is very excited. She usually helps me chop, but with a blunt knife, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you make a perfect.
Don't just shout at me.
Don't what?
Don't just shout at me.
I'm not. Don't distract you or don't shout at me.
Don't shout at me.
I'm not shouting.
Yes, you are.
Mhm.
Over here, honey.
Mommy, what time do you need that?
Well, we're gonna follow Vida. So Vida said that we're gonna heat up the oil. Make sure.
So is your oil getting hot?
I think our oil is getting hot. What do you
Okay,
think?
Yeah.
mine is getting there, not quite.
And Vida, Virginia, curious, is this your favorite dish? Kind of how did you choose this one to cook?
You know, I chose the curry chicken because I thought of, you know, if a Trinidadian happened to be watching, it's really one of the most popular dishes to cook. And I, at home, we make a lot of curries. We just changed, like we make curry fish, curry garbanzos, curry tofu, curry egg. A lot of curry is cooked here. So I thought the chicken would be a popular one to choose, but honestly, we enjoy all of them.
Yeah.
And for variety, we kind of make all of them.
Fantastic. Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and add the curry powder. And you should hear a little sizzle.
Give it to me. I'll put it in.
The bitterness of it, huh? Bitterness.
Say it one more time.
They say the bitterness that comes out of it when you do that to it.
Yeah.
I can put it out.
Okay, so now, I don't know if yours is brown, mine brown quickly, so now you add a little bit of water, Krish.
Okay.
Just a little bit of a splash, okay?
Okay. Monica, can you stand back, honey?
Big flag.
Around a
I'm
little.
gonna turn on the fan for 2 seconds.
And then just mix it. Okay.
And now you just stir it. And it'll be, it's like bubbling. It should be like bubbling.
Yep.
You have enough water in it, yeah.
Okay, so now you're gonna add a little bit more water, like half a cup. And now you're gonna add in the green onions,
The green onion. This one, honey.
the garlic,
Okay. And the
the onion,
garlic. Go ahead. There's garlic.
do you want the pepper in now or later? Because I'll make it hot.
Okay. And then the onion.
And now they're done. Okay. You can put it in, put one piece in it.
And the pepper.
But you remember about your little girl.
So now you have to remember, if you add the pepper in now, the sooner you add the pepper, the hotter the dish.
Okay. Yeah. So.
That'd be very spicy.
And you let this saute for a little bit,
We're gonna put this in. I think this
for a couple minutes.
we're gonna wait for that.
So that chicken breast takes a minute. But very short time. Mhm. You want to cover that?
How are you doing?
Good. So Vida, I was gonna ask you. So Alana's palate
Ow,
is don't eat it. I'm wondering, would we completely corrupt this dish if we waited to add this?
The pepper?
Yeah, I worry that if I put it in,
Yes, it'll be way too hot
yeah,
for her palate. Oh, you may not even want to put it at all and just use it
Okay,
as a side
okay.
condiment. 'cause
yes,
it's
that's what
very
I'm thinking.
hot.
Okay, so we're gonna put this on the side because she is, as you can see, she's putting her tongue on her shirt.
Yeah.
That maybe it's too hot. Okay.
Would it make it too hot, Alana?
We do not make it too hot? No, okay. And one question that's asked is, can I use stock instead of water?
You know, I'm gonna say I don't know because I've never done it. So the best thing I would tell is
Chicken
try it and try it both ways and see which one they prefer. But I've never tried it.
And this is on like medium fire?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. You have to correct. You should turn it down to about like medium high.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Go get
so
milk.
so now it's time to add your potatoes.
Okay. Lana, are you ready to add potatoes?
And now you add 2 cups of your water.
It's 2 cups of our water. Okay. Got it?
Thank you.
Mhm. Good job. Thank you. And we need 2 cups of our water. So we're going to pour.
And I go.
Yeah.
I go.
Okay.
She's tall now,
I know.
very tall.
Yeah, I'm gonna get used to this because in no time she's gonna be taller than me. I have no doubt about that.
Right? I mean, she's adorable. Okay, now you're gonna put salt and pepper to taste.
Taste honey.
So I tend to add a little bit, about half the salt now, and then add another half when I add the chicken. But that's just my preference.
Good. I think that's good.
And then
Krish, is your water covered? Are your potatoes covered with water?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I probably, so add a little bit more until they're covered. Is that what you're saying?
Not quite totally covered, but it should pretty much, you should still see the potatoes above the water.
How does that look?
Perfect.
More water.
You want a little more? Mom said a little bit more water.
Trust mom. Definitely trust mom. Okay. All right. So we're gonna add a little more water, honey.
Okay, so now we're gonna cover this and let it cook for about 5 minutes
A little more.
And the potato.
until the potatoes are tender. You can talk into that too.
Yeah,
We can hear you.
I didn't think it was brown.
Okay. So you're saying now cover it?
And this will cover it for about 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay. Okay, so we'll wait there. Okay, so let me just see there.
Take a look. Let us see yours.
You want to see mine?
Yeah, that would be lovely if you don't mind. Ooh, that looks nice. Okay, lovely. And I know there is one question about, are you going to post the recipe at some point? And we will be. So you'll definitely get the full recipe. Another question we got from Kelly is, what curry powder do you recommend? There is
So,
yellow and
you
red.
know, that's there are 2 ways I can answer that. One, if you can go to the Caribbean market, right? There's a curry powder there. Either the 2 brands, you can use either one.
Mhm.
And they're both pretty good. I tend to use a blend of different curry powders because that's just to do something different. But I think if they go to any Caribbean store and they'll be fine with it.
Apparently my sous chef is taking over here because in her expert opinion, it's done. But let's just wait a couple more minutes. Patience is a virtue, honey. Okay, so while we're waiting, I hope you don't mind, maybe I'll just ask a couple questions. So you answered, why did you choose this dish? We're also wondering, is this a dish you cook a lot as a family?
Yes. Curry tends to be on our, twice a week?
At least twice a week.
Yeah.
Maybe curry chicken, maybe curry gabazo beans, which are very good. And
Curry egg, we
and
love.
we like the egg with the potato. You boil the egg and you curry it that way. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And what else? Oh, and we do salmon.
Right.
We curry salmon.
Ooh.
And we curry kingfish.
Yeah.
A popular dish in Trinidad is curry kingfish.
Sounds nice.
She's adorable, by the way. I'm sorry she's stealing the show.
It always does.
I'm watching. Look.
She's certainly not camera shy.
I know.
No, she's not. She definitely knows where the camera is at all times. Okay, be polite. And I just want to also make sure, so we have not added, so the one thing we haven't added is the full amount of the rest of the water, and we haven't added the tofu in our case, or I guess chicken in your case.
Exactly. That's correct. That is correct.
Okay, great. And another question I was just curious about is, how is this dish tied to the food at Ben's Chili Bowl?
So you said
Spicy.
it best. You said it best. And Mom can talk more about how they came about the chili. But Pop's philosophy when he worked his way through college in the restaurants, he thought the food was bland, and he
Yeah.
all love that pepper. So every time he kept going, I need to come up with something. I need to do something to add spice to the dishes that he loved, and the burgers and so forth. And Mom will tell you how the birth of the half smoke came to be. But the chili, he just kind of added spices and came up with a recipe, and there was the birth of Ben's and the chili half smoke and burger and so forth.
And back in those days, the chili powder was much more accessible than the curry powder. So we were able to put chili powder anywhere, and add the garlic, add all the spices to it. It was just wonderful. Now, I'm from Virginia, so I'm not accustomed to spicy dishes. I grew up, and the spiciest thing we have is black pepper. So, the first time I was in Trinidad and had dinner with his family, I thought everything was so spicy, delicious, but spicy. And then, of course, it took about maybe a week for me to get to really fall in love with the curry and the spices that was offered in Trinidad in every home that I visited. But Ben just felt like the food was bland here in America, and it needed some lift. It needed some spices, so he came up with this curry powder, which is as spicy as the chili powder, which is as spicy as the curry would be back in Trinidad. Yeah. And then, of course, we came out and we found a breakfast sandwich. He developed a breakfast sandwich. It was a half smoke. It's really a breakfast sausage, but he thought it would be great in a nice steamed hot dog bun with mustard and onions and this delicious, spicy homemade chili sauce. So that's what brought it into being, and the half smoke is now Washington's signature dish, and #1 on our list, on our menu, and after 62 years, is still the #1 item.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's fantastic. And you mentioned kind of Ben's involvement. So between you and Ben, this is directed to Virginia, who did you kind of just divvy up the cooking, or was he mostly cooking?
If you know Pop, you wouldn't ask that question.
Okay.
He created the recipe. Mom cooked the recipe.
Oh, I see.
That was the latest job in that era.
And he was just a
Cooking was the
taster.
latest job, yeah.
I see.
Yeah. And the first time I made curry for him, the very first time I made curry for him, he was telling me what you put in it, right?
Okay.
And he said something about a little tomato paste. So I made it, and he came over. It's delicious, but it's red. It shouldn't be red, he said.
Oh, gosh.
I put too much tomato sauce.
Oh, so you think I think he probably, did he mean tomato paste, or did he mean tomato sauce?
He meant tomato.
Some Trinidadians use the tomatoes in the can or fresh
Yeah.
their curry. That's not the style where I grew up.
Yeah.
But some, depending on where you grew up in Trinidad, I noticed some use the fresh tomatoes, and in America they may use the canned tomatoes.
Yeah.
So, but that's not a style I grew up with.
Yeah, he just thought it was red. It should be red.
What are you munching on, my dear?
Raspberries.
Oh, I love raspberries.
That's so nice to have fresh raspberries.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we love our berries. We snack a lot before dinner, which is something we're working on, but I think she's
Yeah,
gonna be
because
very
mommy,
excited.
I'm really hungry.
She's very hungry. And the smell, I hope the audience is following along and participating. Otherwise, I wish I could give you a waft of this curry because it's smelling delicious.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Wow.
let's check it again.
It's bubbling over here pretty hard. I think that's the other thing I found about Trinidad cooking. They like the flame up high.
Yeah, and should it be kind of more simmering or boiling? Is it too?
Well,
I didn't cut my potatoes as small as I should, so I turned my heat up. You had your potatoes cubed perfectly.
Oh,
So
okay.
mine is, some of my pieces is still not. So to speed up the process a little, I turned it up, but I'm still watching it so it doesn't burn. But
Yeah.
so in about a minute we'll add the I'll add the chicken and you will add the tofu.
Okay. And one
And
question.
then it only takes a few minutes to cook because the chicken cooks very quickly.
oh yeah, the boneless chicken breast cooks in no time.
Yeah, no time.
Same thing with tofu.
Right.
Yeah.
Cooks very quickly.
So you just make sure the potatoes are pretty
Right.
tender.
Right.
Okay.
Because once you add the chicken, it's matter of minutes.
Okay.
I go.
You want to go cook?
Do you?
Oh, I apparently I have to go stir my soup. I'll be back in a second.
You know, she understands the thing. You
She is
understand
hilarious.
cooking.
Apparently, I'm doing all the cooking and she's doing all the eating, but so it goes. And what?
But she's aware what's happening in her surroundings.
Yes, that is exactly right. And she's
Yeah,
very.
but I'm still eating more strawberries.
I think
our
it's
second.
beautiful.
So one question we got was, what
Uh-huh.
color should it be?
Say it one more time.
What color should it be?
Curry,
Yeah. So a question
yellow.
or someone in the audience asked was,
It's
what
like a yellow.
I'd say more brown than yellow.
I mean, I see it as yellow. Mom sees it as
I
brown.
see it brown.
So
In America, that's brown.
so
and
it
I
depends on how you see it.
In America, that's
And
brown.
also, Chris,
Tilt the bowl
the
to
other
her.
thing too. The other thing too, what I've learned is depend on how spicy you want it. Even if you don't add pepper, you can change the amount of curry powder you put in. I kind of we like it spicy, so
Yeah.
we add a good amount. The amount I told you about, that's what we add.
Yeah.
But if someone is trying it for the first time, they can use like half the curry powder if they want it a little more mild.
Okay.
The
Yep.
pepper.
Yeah, we're not going to put the pepper in. We have our habanero pepper. It's just going to sit there for a second. And whoever wants it spicy can add that.
Tons of pieces.
Yeah, we won't add that.
Yeah, and now I just put it out.
Yeah, you can just leave that right there. Okay, all right, we're excited.
Okay, so you ready? We can add in our, you can add your tofu and I'll add the chicken.
Alana, you want to add the tofu now? Right?
The potatoes should be done, right?
Are your potatoes tender?
Let's see. Okay, hold on 1 second. Andy. One second. Just check to make sure our potato is tender. Okay, take a piece of potato out. Yeah, it's pretty tender.
Okay, perfect. So let's add the tofu and I'll add the chicken.
And you want to add the tofu now? Okay.
And now you can add more salt and pepper to taste.
Okay. Here's yours. And then can you add the tofu? Oh, you can just dump it all in.
Oh, I'm just really good.
Oh, wow. Okay. I hope we have more than 30 minutes because we're at this point, Alana has decided she's going to add the tofu cube by cube.
Oh, cube by cube.
Yes. this might be a stalling strategy. I don't think she wants to go to bed early tonight.
Oh, I see. She's pretty
Yes.
smart, I see.
Each cube will be nicely saturated in the sauce.
So did you
Exactly.
see my pot?
Yeah.
That's how it should look.
Okay. Okay. Yep. All righty. Good job. Okay. Now.
And I'm just going to add a tiny bit more water. Don't add the full 2 cups.
Yep.
Just add enough to make it a little sauce.
Yep. I think we have enough. Now. So we're just gonna mix this in. It does look yummy.
On that?
I don't know if you caught that, but Alana said that looks yummy.
She said that's yummy.
It looks yummy.
Oh, yay. I hope it tastes yummy.
Yeah.
I'm seeing you now, Vida.
Huh?
Seeing you.
Yummy. Okay, well, she liked the potato. Okay, and now we're gonna let that sit.
For just a, so tofu takes a little quicker than the chicken.
Okay,
So I would say give the tofu a couple more minutes and then we can turn it off and then we'll give the chicken a couple more minutes. And so it's now 6:30. By 6:35, we should be done.
okay, great. Okay, so I hope you don't mind. There's a couple more questions that we got
Okay.
that I want to ask. From Victoria, can you recommend some good Trinidadian music to listen to while we cook? And then the other question from Kelly is, what about Thai curry powder?
So I love Thai curry. So you can get a Thai curry from, I do the shortcut and get the pre-mixed one from Whole Foods. They have them there. I don't make the Thai curry as much as my sister, so I tend to get that more when I go to her home. But she makes it and it's very good. And you follow the same steps. It's funny because the whole Asian world pretty much
Yeah.
follow.
Yeah.
They use coconut. They use coconut.
They use
milk.
coconut milk. That's
Yeah, they
correct.
use
Instead of
coconut
water, they use coconut milk. That's another big
Oh,
difference.
that's an interesting addition. Yeah. I love,
Yeah.
so basically instead of the water, just use coconut milk wherever it calls for water.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And it's really good.
And they use what else?
And as for the music on the internet, if you type in Trinidad, popular Trinidad music, there's a few stations that we have that you can, depending on your style of music, you can listen to different styles and choose which one you're in the mood for.
Okay. All right. Okay, great. And another question I had was actually, besides this chili, are there any other Trinidadian inspired dishes at Ben's? I know you mentioned the breakfast sandwich.
Not yet. I think the chili is our main thing because the rest is pretty much American. We added a large vegetarian vegan line and a turkey line and a beef line for those who don't eat, because the half smoke is a mixed beef, mixed pork. So we have a variety just to for those, because we tend to see people coming in groups. And one may be vegetarian, one may just be eating beef, one just want a milkshake, you know what I mean? So we kind of have a variety so groups can eat there as well. And then we now have groups coming from all over the world. So we had to add chicken. We now have a grilled chicken salad and a crispy chicken salad sandwich and stuff, just to make sure we're taking care of everyone's diet. And it's not really restrictions, it's just, just giving a variety.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then I guess directed to both of you, did you always like to cook?
I'll let Mom answer that first. Did you always like to cook?
Oh,
Mom
yes.
cooked amazing meals. Her sons still speak of her fabulous meals.
You
by
got to
the way.
remember, those of us that really enjoy food and enjoy eating, of course, we like cooking.
Yeah.
And I raised, with my husband, 3 sons
Oh, wow.
with hearty appetites. So it was cooking every single day. And my kids did not go to a school that provided lunch. So I provided a wholesome breakfast every morning and packed lunch every day and had a nice dinner in the evening. And it didn't matter if you were tired or if you had a headache, you made dinner.
my husband, her eldest son, still speak of the cookies with the thumbprint with the kiss, the Hershey's Kiss, as well as the homemade chocolate cakes that was in the lunchbox. They always had an amazing dessert that she made from scratch, whether it was a turnover or whatever the case. The other thing I'm doing now, Krish, is what I do is kind of mash up a few pieces of the potato now. So that way the sauce gets, you thicken the sauce.
Okay.
Because this dish is about to, be pretty finished in a minute.
Just crush the potatoes a little bit. At the back of the spoon, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then maybe, Virginia, you're making me look bad because now that I've started packing Alana's lunches, now she's gonna get all sorts of ideas of homemade chocolate cakes.
Trust me, she would have made all of us look bad. When I hear the lunches she made, I'm like, oh my God,
Chocolate.
I love chocolate too.
Well, I made sure that they were healthy and wholesome, and sometimes I would keep the cake back for dinner so they didn't have too much sugar.
Yeah.
Right, just give them a small cookie and some fruit.
My dad, he made strawberry. He just put strawberry in the food, and then he just put brown. And then
Okay,
he
so
just,
I love chocolate.
and then I always just take it and it's too spicy for me.
It's too spicy for you. I know.
so Krish, my chicken is done, so I think your tofu is definitely done.
Okay.
So
Yep.
so I'm just gonna pour it into my dish.
The chicken is done, you sure, huh?
Yeah.
Good. It looks good.
Mom, do you need a
Yeah,
bowl?
and so one other question is, so my curry looks a little bit soupy still. Maybe I added a little too much sugar. I mean, too much water. If I let it just,
Simmer a bit.
yeah.
You can let it sit right now, but take some of the potatoes and mash it, thicken it. Yeah.
Okay.
Mom, I want one potato to eat.
You want another potato? Okay. Here's the potato. I put that in here. Right in here.
She's taking the potatoes out to mash. You
I'm
can
looking
just
at
crush them in
potatoes
the
here.
pan
You can crush them. You can mash them in the pan like this, Krish,
with the back of your
with the
spoon.
back of the spoon.
Yep, okay.
And ours is thick enough.
Yeah.
It's just gonna get thicker as you said.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask another question, which is, so who's the best? You seem like quite a talented family of cook chefs. Who's the best cook in the family?
Well, I think it does. You have to ask. I think mom takes the. I'll give mom the win just from experience because she has a pretty good variety. She makes some serious dishes I don't match, but I can hold my own if I need to be.
Nice.
but I'll give mom, since she's the eldest, she has it because no, she has cooked. I mean, you used to have a cookbook open and cook variety. I mean, when I hear all the things,
you know, and the men in my circle, you know, the couples that were very good friends, and we'd go to each other's home for dinner on Sundays. It was a prime rib roast. That was a favorite dish, the prime rib roast. And the men like the end cut, so you have to go and buy 2 prime rib roasts instead of 1 big one. If you've got 4 men, you have to buy 2 prime rib roasts, and they each get an end cut.
Oh, wow.
And you know, marinated lamb, we can make shish kebab. You know, we ate the meat back there.
Yeah.
The meat was a focal part of the dish in our young lives. It was a focal part of the dish. Of course, we had vegetables. We always, because I grew up in the country, and we would have 2 or 3 vegetables at any given meal. But it was the meat was the focal point of the meal.
Yeah.
And we didn't do it the way you do it today, where you put everything and you cover it, you put the meat on top. No, we had sections. The meat goes here, the starch goes here, the vegetables go here, even on the plate.
Oh,
And now you go out and the meat goes on top of everything.
yeah, changing times. Well, and just speaking of the half smoke, I know this is a question that you probably get asked all the time, but I think there's so many who are curious to know. So what is a half smoke?
It's half pork and half beef, and spices wrapped in a very natural casing. So it has a little snap when you bite into it. That natural casing gives you a little bit of a snap, and that's what it is. It's patterned after a breakfast sausage. It was really made for breakfast sausage. We simply turned it into a great sandwich and made it the chili half smoke.
And Krish, now it's actually DC's signature dish.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah, so when we different sports team, when we do wagers against different cities, different states, we do the half smoke to what their city is. So Philly would be the steak. We did quite a few of them. It's fun.
Some places would
Yeah.
be crab.
The crab, yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
kind of fun. But the half smoke has become that, so it's kind of fun.
It's very cool. Okay, so it looks like, so I'm going to turn off my dish in just 1 more minute. And maybe if you guys don't mind, I'm going to ask you just some specific questions. And I know we also have a number of questions that are coming in from the audience.
Okay.
So maybe I'll just start, Virginia, if I can direct this to you. How did you decide, along with your husband, Ben, to start Ben's Chili Bowl? And was it always Ben's vision to open your famous restaurant when he moved here to the US?
No, my husband came here to matriculate at our universities, first at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, and then on to Washington, D.C. to Howard University's dental program. He was actually supposed to become a dentist, but he had a serious accident after a little over a year in dental school and was not able to complete the program. He'd worked his way through college by working in restaurants. So he picked up a skill that he didn't have before. And when we met, I was working at the bank in the community. He was working in the community. When we met and fell in love and wanted to be married, he wanted to be self-employed, and he thought a small restaurant would be the perfect idea. We didn't want full service. So we thought this would be great, just the good old American hot dog. You know, we tried the good old American hot dog, and we had great hamburgers as well, but we put chili on everything. And then he came up with this half smoke idea. Let's put chili on the half smoke with mustard and onions. And that became a very popular dish. So that's how we kind of got started. 1958, we were readily accepted in the community. We were new and fresh and colorful. We had made everything Trinidad, bright. All the colors that you notice in front of the chili bowl, it's still there. The red and yellow and everything. And so, and we had these very late hours because back in those days, U Street was known as Black Broadway. So when we were looking for a place to open our restaurant, we thought if we could find something even close to Black Broadway, it would be fantastic. Well, we found 1213 U Street, which was an old silent movie theater. It didn't exist further because they built a Lincoln Theater next door. But we were able to lease that property. And, you know, we found everything we needed in the community, the architect, the contractor, the plumber, the electrician, the cabinet maker, everybody with their own little individually owned businesses in the community. Because it was still kind of a segregated city back there. You know, the Civil Rights Bill was passed in 1963. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we opened and we had a great 10 years. We were there during the Civil Rights Movement. And I remember when Dr. King was planning his March on Washington in 1963, he would stop in the Chili Bowl because there was a satellite office just a couple of blocks away for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. So he would stop in the Chili Bowl, and I could have an opportunity to sit and chat with him for a little while and hear him talk about his dream and that beautiful march that he had in 1963 that brought in 250,000 people without incident. Even the President Kennedy had advised him before the march, I don't think you should bring so many people. It could create a problem and set your movement back. He said, no, it won't. And it did not. He made that fabulous speech, I have a dream. We were motivated to no end. Everybody was so happy. And as I said, the Civil Rights Bill was passed in 63, and the Voting Rights Bill was passed in 64. So, you know, we thought we were doing very, very well back then. And that's kind of how we got started. And it's now 62 and a half years later. I lost him 11 years ago. We had 51 years together and 3 sons. And we were so fortunate. We sent them off to great schools, and they all decided they would come and be a part of our chili bowl. And two of them brought their wives with them. So we have 3 sons, and I have 2 daughter-in-laws, one here cooking dinner for me. How do you like that? That's real Trinidadian when you get your daughter-in-law at the house to cook dinner for you.
It is really so beautiful. And you touched on a few points that I think would love to tease out. So maybe if I'll just start in terms of the history and how Ben's Chili Bowl played such a critical role in that. Obviously, Ben's Chili Bowl, and just to give context to some of the audience members who may not live in the DC metro area. So Ben's Chili Bowl obviously has had a wide range of celebrities, artists, politicians, as you mentioned, Martin Luther King Jr. I know you've talked previously about Stokely Carmichael. What was it like to know these people in person and to share a meal with them?
Well, it was wonderful. I mean, we had become a gathering place. We knew we wanted to be a part of the community. We knew we wanted to give back to the community, and the community was there to support us. So even during the riots of '68, when Dr. King was assassinated, we were the only place that was allowed to remain open during 3 nights of curfew. It was scary. The National Guard was out there, and Ben wrote something on the front of the window, "Soul Brother," that identified us as an African-American business, and we were not touched. So we were able to hold on there during that time. And as I said, we were the gathering place. And when the media wanted to get the African-American perspective on the new quarterback, for example, or the new vice president, or the new whatever's going on in town, they'd come to the Chili Bowl. And somehow we just made the map, I guess. We're kind of on the map.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I think you're right. It's a destination, and it is a part of Washington, D.C. and our nation's history. But what I think is so fascinating is none of that has dulled. And so I feel like every day, even today, you are making history. So I want to just ask you, I know that the restaurant stayed open to serve people during the March on Washington and the Poor People's Campaign March. Do you think food plays a role in social justice? And why do you think immigrants have been so closely aligned with these movements throughout history?
Well, U Street was known as Black Broadway. It was where it was the entertainment for the African-American community. And we had everything we needed because we weren't allowed to go downtown for dinner and during segregation. But the community provided us with Howard University, for example, right there in the midst of it, which provided us with a very, very strong and a large intellectual community. So we had our own African-American bank owned by one African-American family. Now for 83 years, that bank is still there. And the industrial bank, and then the flower shop was one other business that held on, and they're in the third and fourth generation operating that. So U Street was historically a kind of a famous area. It was Black Broadway. It was where you came to see the big entertainers at the Howard Theater, or the first-rate movie at the Lincoln or the Republic Theater, or the jazz clubs that had all of our wonderful artists. So people would come, and my thing is, we like to feel we treat everybody like family, and celebrity or what, we're all just people.
It is so beautiful. And actually the point, Virginia, that you made about family is actually something I want to ask about, and I'll direct this to Vida. So clearly Ben's Chili Bowl is a family business. Do you see a connection between the restaurant's immigrant heritage and its current business model? And do you believe it'll continue to stay in the family? And I guess I'll direct that to both of you.
Oh, it's going to stay in the family, I think. So I'm not sure about the 3rd generation now. Not so sure about the 3rd generation. My little granddaughter said, "Grammy, I'm not sure I'm going to carry this legacy going. I'm not sure." So
Well,
we
next
got-
Culture Kitchen, we hope to see your granddaughter because I know they have a lot of fun spending time with her too.
But you know, we didn't expect our sons to be there either.
Yeah.
And they are there. And one is a lawyer, and he's still there full time. So it's fine. You know, it's something that they grew up in, they loved it. They see that we serve people, we're part of a community. It's bigger than we are. And that community has shown their appreciation to us. I'm so grateful for that. During this pandemic, it was amazing to see the response we got when the media said that we were struggling, and we were struggling, but it was amazing to see the response that we got from our patrons all over the country, not just in Washington, letters with checks in them. And we were able to take those checks and give back by preparing lunches for the hospital staff at Howard University and the hospital center, the fire department, teachers, even protesters, and most recently, the National Guard. So we still do that today. And I think I'm still amazed that we are as popular as we are. I mean, people are calling and coming from all over the country, all over the world, and they're taking pictures, and many of them come in from Switzerland or wherever with a tour guide book with a picture of the chili bowl in it from home. We see that often from so many countries, and we've been seeing that for a long time. So this past March 2020, we had the largest reservation list we've ever had. First of all, spring break, kids coming, 8th graders come all the time. All school groups come from all over the country. And then we have the Europe and Asia and all those places. And what better place to come than Washington, D.C.? It's a beautiful city. And they come, and many of them find their way to the Chili Bowl, and they make reservations in advance. We show them a little film. We have a special menu for the large groups, and we missed that for the whole pandemic.
Yeah, I feel like, well, hopefully the COVID clouds are slowly lifting and that day will come, return soon enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And at LIRS, we believe, very strongly in economic empowerment and employment opportunities for immigrants. How have immigrant workers shaped Ben's culture? Why would you encourage businesses to hire and elevate the voices of immigrant workers, assuming that you would?
You understand what she's asking?
Yeah, the immigrant workers.
Yeah,
We've had so many.
we've had, because of who we are and we welcome all, it's an interesting thing. I think from Pop being from Trinidad as well, from day one, we've had immigrants and Americans blended, right? And I think that's what made it so beautiful.
Yeah.
Because you would see, at one time, I remember we were celebrating Mom's birthday and they sang it in 10 different languages because we had that many. And I thought it was fascinating. So I came up with the idea of them singing it to her in all the languages, and they wore their costume. I had them wear, we celebrated it, her birthday.
On my 80th
on her
birthday,
80th
7
birthday,
years ago.
We celebrated at the Lincoln Theater because a lot of people wanted to come, and we had them dressed in their traditional outfits and costumes, and they sang it in their thing. And that's what represents the Chili Bowl. So I just feel like, I use the word immigrants loosely because, like Mom said, we're all people of the world and we're one
family.
But so I think that's where her hesitant was in terms of that, because we really just see it as one world, one. And we think that we treat everyone coming in the door, and whatever background, wherever you're from, as people, and give them that respect and family vibe that she's done from day one. And I think, what you asked earlier about, the tradition and will it continue in the next, I think one, she was saying she wasn't sure. I think once you become and you see what maybe they didn't set out to do, I think Mom and Papa will say, we were just trying to take care of our family and make sure to get through the proper school and take care of them. And it ended up being part of a community and a culture. But now when you're seeing it, I use this word loosely, but I feel like it's a responsibility on our generation to make sure we do half as what they did to keep the legacy going, because it's not just about a family anymore. Yes, it's a family fair, and I think that's important to show what hard work and a family can do together, working together, what we can do. But I think it represents a community, a city, and a culture. And I think that's, people see us. I remember when we were closing, when COVID happened, they watched Ben's because they were like, as long as Ben's is open, there's hope, you know. And it's always been that beacon of hope and that place where, like, if they come and they talk to mom, no matter what they're facing, she always showed, look at it this way. You can come to her talk about relationship, anything. And I've heard she's done countless sessions with different, all walks, married, single, young, old, whatever it is. And that's who she is. And I think that's what we hope to continue. And I think the next generation in some form will do the same, because I can't see in my future and in their future the bowl not being there.
Yeah, no, I think so many in, whether it's DC natives or transplants or those who are, kind of in the region, it is such an anchor, as you said, of U Street that I don't know that people can imagine a DC or a U Street corridor without it. One last question I'll ask, and I know that you also wanted to maybe share with us some of the side dishes in terms of how you serve it. But one question we did ask, get asked in the Q&A was, how did mom and dad meet? So Virginia, would you mind?
That's a fun story. That's a fun one.
I was working at the bank. I was a commercial teller, and Ben was working in the community, and he shows up one day and I serve him. And then he shows up again the next day and I serve him. And the third day he comes in, there other tellers are free, but he still waits in my line. And he writes a little note on a quarter wrapper. Please call me. And he wrote his number and signed his name. Well, of course, that was 1957. A lady didn't call a man she didn't know. I thought he was really cute, but I couldn't possibly call him. So he, being sure of himself, the bank closed at 2 o'clock. 2:45, he called the bank and asked to speak to me by name. My name was in the window. So he said, "This is Ben Alley. Why didn't you call me?" I said, "Excuse me, I don't know you, sir." "Oh, well, what would you like to know?" And then by the time, before I could respond, he rattled his life off to me. He'd come from Trinidad. He'd gone to school in Nebraska, and he had been at Howard's Dental School, but he wasn't anymore. I said, "You were at Howard's Dental School?" I knew the folks at Howard's Dental School. I said, "Oh, do you know Dr. Joe Henry? Do you know Basil Keene?" I named 3 or 4 people. "Yes, I know them all. They're my friends." I said, now I feel like I'm comfortable. He asked me out, but now I feel like I'm comfortable giving him my phone number at home because I am at work and we know the same people. So I gave him my phone number. He called at home that evening to ask me out, and I suggested he be accompanied by one of those friends to come to our home and meet the family. And he did. Dr. Basil Keene from Jamaica brought him. Yes. And we were introduced and we made a date the following weekend, and the rest is history.
Wow. Well, persistence pays off. That is a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. And then Vida, I know that you maybe wanted to show us how you typically serve the curry.
Sure. So I'm going to have to take the computer to the table. So excuse me for a second. So I'm not sure if you can see.
Ooh.
I'm going to lower it for a second.
Yeah.
Can you see the dishes?
Yeah.
So this is, I use white basmati rice, but because that's the most popular rice, but I can also use brown rice or quinoa. This is the dal that goes on top of the rice.
It's made with.
And it's made with a yellow split pea and cumin, and we love habanero pepper, so, and a lot of garlic and so forth, and of course turmeric. And this one is a popular Trinidad dish as well. It's cabbage with tomatoes and onions and garlic and so forth. And that's the curry that we made today. And we always do a condiment aside of cucumber. Normally, if we can get watercress and cucumber salad, we would make something like that as well. But we always have some kind of side salad as well.
Wow, well, that looks delicious. I feel like I need to do our own show and tell. My sous chef has been making, would you like to describe what it is that you just made here? It looks like blueberries and Himalayan sea salt.
Berries and what?
There's Himalayan sea salt.
So I
Poor little
not sure.
berries. The poor little berries.
I know. So what will be so our accompaniments do not look as delectable as yours, but they are still creative. And she's apparently still cooking.
More so, exactly, right. But that Himalayan salt is very nice. I like that.
Exactly. All right, wonderful. So I know we are at time. This has definitely been one of the best tofu curries that I have ever tasted. So really, thank you so much for joining us, Vida and Virginia. Thanks to our audience for following along. We'll be sharing the recipe of what we made today, as well as a recording of today's episode and a follow-up email for everyone who registered for the event. Coming up, keep an eye out for the Refugee Town Hall that we'll have on Thursday, May 20th at 7 p.m., which is an LIRS partnered event with Lutheran Social Services of the National Capital Area and the United Nations Association of the National Capital Area. So we're still staying with this kind of regional theme. It'll actually feature special guest Representative Jamie Raskin. Oh my gosh, she's gonna get like sodium overload here. So we invite everyone to join us for that. We'll be talking about the Biden administration's first 100 days and the future of immigration in the U.S. going forward. It won't feature our special guests, so I think this is probably one of our best events. And we'll of course be announcing our next episode of Culture Kitchen very soon. So lastly, if you don't follow Ben's Chili Bowl on social media, you can follow them at Ben's Chili Bowl on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I know there was a question about whether, if you don't live in the DC metro area, can you enjoy how amazing their whole menu is. So even if you're not in the DC area, you can order Ben's Chili, half smokes, and other delicious items online at benschilibowl.com. So you can find LIRS on all of our social medias, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at LIRS.org. And you can also find LIRS and our YouTube. I know that that's being put in the chat. So one final time, thank you to our guests, Vida and Virginia, for joining us. And thank you to our audience at home. Hope to see you all again. Have a great evening and enjoy the meal.
Thanks for
Thank you
having
so
us.
much.
It was
Thank
so much
you.
fun.
Say
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye. Until the next time. Bye.
Next time. Bye.
This is so cute.
Uh-huh.
And I'm still cooking a glass.